are these people?
We're going to get to all the tariff and the crashing of the economy and everybody losing their fucking minds in a minute. I don't know if anybody in this crowd has any stocks, mutual funds, retirement funds, or planned on retiring anytime soon. Trump didn't do so great this week, did he? Now he's still bragging. Amazingly enough, he played golf at Mar-a-Lago today, and he's doing just fine. And I'm going to explain why in a second, because he got his. Here are facts that you need to amplify, and I don't necessarily agree with all of these facts, but okay. Trump made cuts to Social Security. That is a fact. That is true. It cost the American taxpayer $1 billion to bomb Yemen in the last week, resulting in the massacre of children and innocent people. Also true. This one I'm not so sure is true, but Trump has doubled his net worth in the last 3 months, while Americans are poorer than they were before Trump took office. And of course, the headline is that the Dow plunged more than 2,000 points on Friday as the sell-off worsens, and the futures and the European market
just fell down to zero, and it's going to be a fine, swell day.
And it's looking like the futures markets and Asia is opening to another 2-4% drop, and Europe is going to probably do the same. It's going to be another hellish Monday.
Now, do you remember when someone, a certain president on Twitter, said something like, if the Dow Jones plunges more than 2,000 points, you should fire the president out of cannon? You don't remember that?
Yeah, except they spelled Jones, Joans. Like a fucking moron.
I sent that to you, right?
Yes. The president's tariffs sent stocks tumbling for the second day in a row. However, yes.
Yay.
I want to contest one thing here, is that his net worth did not double in the last 3 months. However, it did double in the past year. And I brought this, how he doubled his net worth in a year. And it's all just on paper, of course. You know, that they did release the Forbes 2025 list. Okay. And his net worth, all right, according to this, why is this not letting me see the full article? Show full article. Stop.
You gotta click show for. You gotta click it. You gotta click the.
I am.
Click it.
I am.
You gotta continue.
Boo!
Now do the CAPTCHA. You gotta have the CAPTCHA.
Come on, man.
You know.
I had this before, but basically what it's saying is that his net worth has gone from 2.3 to 5.1 billion, and the way he's done that effectively is with his crypto and with his DJT stock. That it's not all the real world assets or the cash that he's actually holding that have increased by all that. It's the bullshit, fake on paper bullshit. All right. The $sign Trump.
Yeah. Good time with your Bitcoin, your crypto, and everything else that you're playing with.
The Trump meme stock that's currently worth a couple of $1 billion, but will be worth nothing at some point. But right now on
Melania
paper,
bucks.
Right. All right. $5 billion it says he's worth. Fuck that guy.
Sorry, Baron bucks.
But I wanted to bring two other pieces about Trump, which was, first of all,
okay.
This is an article from 6 months ago. November 20th.
Jeffrey Orange
Peel from The New Era wrote this article, and he says in here, this is a long article about President-elect Ponzi. Basically saying that this guy is a complete pump and dump fake across the board. It's no accident that the various candidates vying to be President-elect Trump's Treasury Secretary should be drawn from the same pool of asset management firms. To all intents and purposes, asset management firms now own America and quite a bit of the world. BlackRock alone has over $11 trillion in assets under management. Larry Fink has made clear he needs to acquire more. As U.S. national debt,
dickhead.
Yep. as U.S. national debt has grown markedly since the last Trump administration, so too have the asset holdings of the big private equity firms and asset managers. What a coincidence. Clearly, it's no coincidence, right?
Coincidink.
So
Yep.
this is the holdings of BlackRock. Okay, again, in 2009, $3 trillion, now $11.5 trillion of management. Ridiculous. The fact that they were already managing... The fact that in 2006 they already had $1 trillion under management was probably something we should have been concerned about. And then after the financial crisis, they more than doubled in a year. Thank you, Obama. Thanks, Obama. The extent of growth of assets under ownership by Fink and his buddies comes down to a policy that was kicked off after the great financial crash of 2008, largely as a result of Fink's close relationship with President Obama's Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner. BlackRock was chosen as what was the chosen one as far as economic recovery was concerned. And the net result of this, thank you. And the net result of this partnership between Fink and the government was an explosion in employment for former Fed executives in BlackRock and a vast increase in the firm's assets under management. It's suggested that it was Fink's idea that the Fed should go direct, investing directly into the corporate bond market. Handily, BlackRock and other asset managers now offer approved ETFs, all right, that the Fed can merrily buy. How convenient. As of 2020, BlackRock was running debt buying programs focused on mortgage-backed securities, commercial real estate, corporate bonds, and treasury bonds. Cash rules everything around me. Get the money. Dollar bill, diversify your bonds. This activity is spun as critical for revitalizing the U.S. economy, except it doesn't. However, it depends, of course, on the Treasury creating money out of thin air, which we know it does. Hence the term debt buying. The Treasury and Fed combo are essentially buying up trillions of dollars of assets with newly printed money. And I just heard Steve Grumbine's head explode. Because he knows it's all printed money. It's all printed money. You'll recall that one of Keir Starmer's earliest visitors to Downing Street after his landslide election addiction was Larry Fink with Bill Gates in tow. Fink and the other asset management firms simply can't acquire assets fast enough. They're literally running out of stuff to buy. Hence, they need to extend into new markets, buying up farmland in the UK or local government pension schemes. And Fink has also stated his ambition to acquire competitors with better positions in alternative assets, such as crypto and commodities and futures. So the other
frozen orange juice.
But it's his fellow parasitic asset managers aren't even safe. Man, no honor among thieves. Yeah. London is a lucrative market for these. Hence, the new Trump administration's intent to keep the momentum going for the money printing and buying Ponzi scheme started under Obama, continued under Trump and Biden, and now with bells on under Trump 2.0, money printing machine go brrr. So, for example, and this is the paragraph I brought this for, Howard Lutnick, you might have heard of him, was for a while in the running for Treasury Secretary, although he's now been given the commerce role, responsible for hiking up America's external tariffs, apparently. Again, this is November 20th. Howard Lutnick was responsible for hiking up America's external tariffs. Can I read that again? Because I want you to be fucking clear as hell. This is not Trump's tariffs. Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, 6 months ago, foreshadowed that he will be responsible for hiking up America's external tariffs. Was there anything in the news this week about tariffs? I don't remember.
So.
Lutnick
is... What's that Bueller movie?
Lutnick,
there's something about that in there.
The Holly Smoot tariff. Is it? Yeah, I can't. Fry. He actually played that for me this week. It's funny. Lutnick Again, Howard Lutnick is the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald, one of those alternative asset managers. He was also the guy who, in 2015, threw a fundraiser bash at his home for Hillary Clinton. The only problem,
go to the polls.
The only problem being that his next door neighbor to none other than Jeffrey Epstein. Awkward.
Nice. Where you fly on Diddy's plane too?
And now he's in the Trump administration.
You know?
Although this incident is a wonderful exemplar as to the extent of asset managers' loyalty to this particular get-rich-quick scheme of stealing money from public coffers, whatever brand of politician occupies the White House, you can be pretty sure the fund managers will give their loyalty, provided the perpetual motion machine of money printing and funding keeps cranking and going. Yep.
Yeah.
The least
In
favorite.
1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the anyone?
Anyone?
Great Depression, passed the anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone know the effects?
Anyone? It did not work.
It did not work, and the United States
did not
sank
work.
deeper into the Great Depression.
Great Depression.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, that's Ben Stein. For those of you who remember, they literally made him into like a celebrity. They put him on fucking TV like he was a smart guy that actually knew anything. He's literally an actor. Oh yeah, he was a fucking economist or what. He's an actor. All right. Then they actually literally had him be a smug, arrogant TV show fucking guy, win Ben Stein's money. He was like a trivia guy. Douchey.
Nice.
Fry.
Don't be rude.
Oh, Cookies, leave BW alone. He knows not what he says. Just wait and see after they pay $50 for a pound of Z-Bugs. Okay? So, Fink was the target, potentially, for Treasury Secretary. All right, Apollo Management co-founder Mark Rowan, and I believe he ended up with the job. And so the revolving door trundles. So I wanted to bring that Lutnick, again, everybody's freaking out about tariffs. It is Howard Lutnick is the reason why we have the tariffs that we do. He has been advocating for tariffs for a long time. And yes, tariffs, Trump did tariffs during his first term with China, but not universal across the board tariffs on the biggest bullshit equation to like he literally pulled that equation out of his ass. People were like, this is the most ridiculous thing ever. There are some goods now 67% tariff from Vietnam. What? It's insane. It's insane. Now I wanted to bring this one. This is actually kind of a ray of sunshine for the anti-imperialist crowd because it just shows, and for BRICS also, that a lot of the moves that Trump is making can be perceived as weak. And I don't see a lot of MAGA really understanding or accepting this kind of a point. I really like George Hazim, George's newsletter. So weak. Too walk. He have too walk Jimmy Oliver. So, hiya, Uncle Roger. Yep. Uncle Roger is very upset. He's very upset with Donald Trump. U.S. President Trump is in uncharted waters, territory he's unaccustomed to, and that's losing. The self-proclaimed master negotiator, slick super salesman, the author of The Art of the Deal, not really, of course we know that's Tony, whatever his name is drowning in frustration and failure. Trump is awakening from delusion to the harsh rudeness of reality. Whatever influence he thought he had negotiating a ceasefire deal on U.S. terms is being exposed. He's playing with no cards while Putin holds them all. Let me make this bigger.
Does he look like a bitch?
Well, but and Trump's desperation to arrest a ship veering off course is showing. Okay, in a display of frustration and confusion that exposes the U.S.'s eroding global influence, Trump told MSNBC News that he's pissed off with Putin and is threatening to impose secondary tariffs on Russian oil if a ceasefire in Ukraine isn't reached soon. Trump's comments made during a phone interview on Sunday last week reveal more than just irritation. They expose a geopolitical truth in the U.S. that the U.S. has refused to acknowledge. The proxy war, it started in Ukraine more than a decade ago through CIA-backed coups, the breaking of the Minsk Accords, and NATO's eastward creep, has failed. Russia's 2022 invasion, long portrayed as unprovoked, was the culmination of years of escalation and attempts to encircle and antagonize Russia. It's Putin, not Washington, who holds the upper hand. And Trump's rhetoric smells of desperation from a leader grasping at straws in a global chess match he can no longer control. I was pissed off about it, he says, referring to recent comments by Putin suggesting alternative leadership in Ukraine and sidelining President Zelensky. Quote, if a deal isn't made, and I think it was Russia's fault, and if I think it was Russia's fault, I'm going to put secondary sanctions on Russia, he said, threatening to slap tariffs on all oil coming out of Russia. Except, they've been under sanctions for 3 years. Trump's demeanor is not that of a confident, commanding leader of a superpower. It's the petulant outburst of a president who knows Washington has lost leverage over a war it instigated. His threat to strong-arm countries like India and China, key buyers of Russian oil, by slapping them with 25 to 50% tariffs if they continue to do business with Moscow, is not only toothless, but pure geopolitical fantasy.
Never failed.
Never failed, brother. India and China
Never pay.
Never pay.
Never pay.
India and China have long prioritized strategic autonomy, and Washington's fading ability to coerce global partners only underscores how far the U.S. has fallen from its unipolar perch. Trump's veiled admission that it might not be Russia's fault if a peace deal fails shows the cracks of America's narrative. For years, the U.S. pushed the idea that Russia's invasion was unprovoked and unjustified. No, that was the Biden administration. Well, I guess it was the U.S., the official narrative of the State Department. Of course, we were saying opposite long time ago. But behind closed doors, even Trump acknowledges the complex reality mainstream media avoids. Ukraine was used as a battering ram in Washington's larger mission to break Russia apart, depose Putin, and plunder its resources. It still is. The U.S. hasn't just failed, it has backfired spectacularly. Russia's economy has withstood years of sanctions, its energy trade continues unabated, and its political leadership remains firmly in place. Meanwhile, back at the Hall of Doom, at the Legion of Doom, American influence on global oil markets is eroding.
While
Yes.
at the Legion.
At the Legion of Doom.
Thank you. And
There you
attempts
go.
to weaponize
You're
trade
welcome.
like Trump's latest tariff threats and now his literal tariff implementations now come across as bluster from a weakened empire that literally destroyed the global marketplace. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
The White House
Good job.
last week touted a 30-day Black Sea truce as progress in Trump's push for a broader ceasefire. Ukraine agreed to halt
Peace man.
Ukraine agreed to halt strikes on energy infrastructure, while Russia's cooperation was conditioned on the removal of sanctions on its agricultural bank and related institutions. Russia is dictating terms, not the U.S. Again, what happened
Russians
here?
don't take a dump, son, without a plan.
Well, their plan here was to make the Ukrainians stop attacking their energy infrastructure and to have sanctions lifted on agricultural bank and related institutions. Nothing happened for Ukraine here, by the way. If Trump follows through on his oil sanctions, the global economy could feel the shock. Trump's threat should see prices reacting more strongly considering the volumes at risk, but so far there are no supply disruptions, just threats. Again, never listen to what he says, but you better pay attention to what he does. And when he unveiled those tariffs, that's when people reacted. That's when the markets dropped 2,000 points. That's when 8% of the market literally wiped out overnight. The U.S. no longer has the capacity to impose real economic damage without harming itself and its allies. The bigger concern, however, lies in what Trump appears to be angling for next: Iran. In the same NBC interview, Trump said he's considering secondary tariffs against Tehran and warned that if Iran doesn't agree to a new nuclear accord within 2 months, it'll face U.S. bombing, which Trump's going to want to dictate all of the terms of that quote-unquote accord. It's basically, accept this with a gun to your head or else. A letter reportedly sent to the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei gave the ultimatum, but Iran has rejected any direct talks with the Trump administration. Right?
Yep. They're going, try me, bitch.
Trump's tough talking reveals a dangerous new gamble that he hopes to use a rushed ceasefire with Russia as a launchpad for military action against Iran, mistakenly believing that securing peace in Ukraine will neutralize Moscow's willingness to defend Tehran. He may not be mistaken. If that's Trump's bet, it reflects a fundamental misreading of both Putin and Russia. And I disagree there, because there's also an Israeli influence with which Putin has always seemed to manage to get along. So I don't know if that's really a misreading. The idea that Russia would sit idly by while its strategic partner is bombed by the U.S. displays a level of ignorance unbecoming of any statesman. I'm going to stop right there for a second.
Maybe.
Do you see what the fuck is happening in Syria?
Mm-hmm.
How do you say that after what you just saw them watch HTS do and stand by and watched them watch HTS do?
Correct.
Okay. Russia has invested heavily, militarily, economically, and diplomatically in its relationship with Iran, as it did in Syria. Any strike by the U.S. on Iranian soil would almost certainly provoke a coordinated response from Moscow. Also, hard disagree there. Hard disagree.
It didn't do that in Syria.
They didn't do that in Syria.
Pretty much because they still have this threat in Ukraine that they're throwing money into. So they cut their losses, so to speak. Their losses being a giant weakness that Trump is now going to try and exploit, looks like.
More broadly, again, so I love George, and I agree with a lot of what he says here. I just disagree with that point. More broadly, Trump's foreign policy reveals a pattern of invented tactics and improvised threats, like the new concept of secondary tariffs aimed at forcing submission rather than fostering diplomacy. No, he doesn't do diplomacy. He does bully mafia tactics. That's what he does. Nice country there. Shame if something happened to it. Just last week, Trump threatened to impose similar tariffs on countries that buy oil from Venezuela, another nation already suffocating under U.S. sanctions. He claimed Venezuela was sending tens of thousands of criminals to the U.S., offering no credible evidence, which he's been doing for weeks, and sending them to El Salvador to his buddy Bukele, who's probably paying him Bitcoin. This isn't strength. It's the tantrum of a man who doesn't understand the board he's playing on. Because he's not the player. He's a pawn. And the person that's manipulating him does understand the board he's playing on. Putin, by contrast, has demonstrated strategic patience, resilience, and a deeper understanding of global power dynamics. Trump's frustrations, the angry outbursts, and scattershot threats only reinforce the growing sense that he's negotiating from a position of weakness while Russia sets the tempo for whatever comes next. If Trump genuinely believes he can coerce Russia into peace while simultaneously threatening Iran, he's not just miscalculating, he's endangering global stability. And I agree with him there. Except that...
Boy, that
escalated quickly. It sure did. I don't think he's miscalculating, but I do think he's endangering global stability. Until he accepts that he holds no cards of value, the U.S. will continue to flail in a geopolitical game it no longer dominates. George Hazim.substack.com. Give him a follow. Give him a subscription. I'm a fan. It's free. You can also pay. You support him with a financially, but lover of Aussie rules and Brazilian jiu-jitsu enthusiast. Okay, journalist, fierce defender of the underdog. Good dude. Connected with him about a year ago on Substack, and I really like reading his stuff. So that's a different perspective on what's happening with Trump and tariffs and why he's doing this. Is this from a position of strength? Doesn't seem like it. I think that the response from the other countries in putting reciprocal tariffs in place is certainly going to isolate us further and accelerate the global reset that he was brought in to usher. So he's doing what he was brought in to do, sadly. Support independent media, kids. We need it more than ever. Love you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Mwah. Ciao, baby.
No! We just fucking lost the stream.
Can keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.